Hopefully now you can hear me. That's really embarrassing. Sorry. Samuel, thank you for the heads up there. Right, so the first couple of minutes of the stream will just be me. Well, maybe you guys lip reading. Yikes, sorry. Thanks for the heads up there, Samuel. But what I was just saying was this is going to be our third session of the My Tutor study squads, in which we're going to focus on study skills. And this session is one that I'm actually quite excited about. I know I said that about the positivity one, but this is another one that I'm excited about, and it's all about creating a positive environment. Just for the record, can all of you hear me at the moment? I've got music playing in the background just for a bit of ambiance, but I don't want it to overpower what I'm saying. So if any of you watching in the chat can let me know whether or not the music's too loud, then by all means do so. It sounds good? Alright, fantastic. Alright, brilliant. So we've just had a jump in the number of viewers. We've got 7. Don't be afraid to say hi. We've got a good 5 minutes or so before I really get started. Again, apologies, I was late. I'm not going to deprive you all of the full hour, so we'll finish a little bit later. For those of you who tuned into the last session, towards the end, the stream did cut quite abruptly, unfortunately. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time. I've had a look at my tech, so fingers crossed we're all good. Alice, hi, welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good day so far. The weather's been a lot nicer today, actually. It's been quite stormy as of late, which isn't particularly fun, especially when you're driving around in it. But no, I hope you're well. Thank you for joining the stream this evening. Samuel, hi as well. That goes without saying. Hi, hope you're well. Thank you for joining the stream this session as well. We've got 11 viewers now. Don't be afraid to say hi. It'll be great to hear from you, see who's there. We'll just start off with just some introductions, just some hellos, how are you, and then we'll get started really, really soon. Got an exciting session today in which we're going to be talking about creating an effective study environment. Now, the first couple of sessions on study skills were really just sort of mindset starters, things to get you in the right mindset. So I'm really excited for the next phase of this series, where we're really going to sort of get into the nitty-gritty and really look at some tangible things that you can practically do. So that's going to be really exciting. Yeah, so definitely looking forward to that. Let's see. I think we'll give it a couple, maybe 4 more minutes. I think 4 more minutes sounds like a good idea before we get started. Again, we're not in a rush. This is a completely safe, non-judgmental space in which we learn from each other, and we learn study skills, to help you in your studies and to help you in your education. So no rush. See, we've got a few more people that have sort of popped in. Don't be afraid to say hi. We're all about engagement, so don't be afraid to get involved on the live chat. We have Claudia Dreams that said hello. Hello, Claudia. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a wonderful day so far. What have you all been up to? Tell me what's new. Flaky Moore, hello. It's good to see you here. Thank you for joining the stream. Thank you for joining us this evening. Love to have you here. Fantastic. Let's see. Okay, we've had a few more people join. That's also quite exciting. Brilliant. Have a nice full house this evening. Yeah, we love engagement. And I've got some really, really great questions to ask you all about what makes a productive study environment. Just as a bit of a quick show of hands, how many of you struggle to sort of have a good study space? Just a show of hands in the chat. Hi, Ronald. Thank you for joining us this evening. Hope you're well. Hope your day's been okay. Hope school's been okay. Hope school's been all right for all of you. Thank you for joining. How many of you find it difficult to have an effective study space? Or how many of you spend time just trying to rearrange your room or your study, and then before you realise that an hour's gone by and you've not actually studied anything? I know I've been in that situation many times. Be interesting to see how many of you can relate. Flaky More says you can relate. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm glad you can relate. It's interesting. I'm quite a, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm quite particular, but I can't study if the area around me is really messy. So inevitably, I then end up spending half an hour just sort of tidying the area, and then I then think to myself, oh, okay, well that would look better over there, and then before I even realise it, an hour's gone, and I've not studied what I set out to study. Um, so I'm glad you can relate on that front. Okay. I think we're going to get started in a minute or so. So if anyone else does join, by all means, they've not missed out on too much at all. And they can always watch this back. And before I get started, actually, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you, whether you're newcomers or returners, for joining our Study Squad series. It's a really exciting project that my tutors put together, one that I'm really, really excited to be a part of. And while you're at it, do check out the other study squads that have been going on. So there is one on Monday, which is all about maths, and there's one on a Tuesday, which is all about coding. So if either of you, or any of you, find maths or coding challenging, or just interesting, and you want to join in, do check out those study squads as well. They are on a Monday and a Tuesday, I believe at the same time that mine takes place at 5 p.m, as it were. So do check those ones out as well. Also, before we get started, there will be a survey at the very end of the live stream. Do fill it in. It's really, really important because it means that I'm able to apply any feedback to anything that you guys suggest of how we can make the stream better, and also helps my tutor as well for future projects that are created to help wonderful students such as yourselves. But I think we should just get started. What do you all think? A quick yes in the chat. Should I just get started with today's session? I'd be surprised if anyone says no. Flaky Moore says yes, fantastic. Claudia says yes as well. Alice says yes as well, fantastic. I think it's a resounding yes. Let's get started then. Right. So, and Joyce says yes as well. Joyce, thank you for joining us today. I'm just loading up this PowerPoint now. So, today's session is going to be all about creating productive study environments. Okay, now, just as a bit of a quick show of hands, and just to get some ideas going in the chat at the moment, what do you guys find challenging about the area that you study in? Is it noise? Is it distractions? Is it a bit of both? Is it friends, family? I want to hear what your experiences are. So, just really, really brief in the chat. Tell me some of the things that you find difficult when you're trying to study. What do you think acts as a barrier to you studying effectively? So Flaky Moore has said a noisy environment. I can definitely agree with that. A lot of studies have shown that noise can actually detract from success when it comes to studying. Alice has said distractions. Definitely agree with that. A funny story, I remember when I was revising for my A-level, bless mum, she'd always sort of pop her head round and say, oh, hi, you okay? But every 5 minutes became a distraction. So definitely agree with that. Claudia, you also did distractions. Catherine, hi, thanks for joining the stream today. Catherine says that she gets distracted. What do you get distracted by? And this question actually goes out to all of you who are watching right now. What do you get distracted by? Just some quick fire answers. I'll start with one, mobile phones. easily. When I was younger, I would always get distracted by my mobile phone. What do you all get distracted by? Flaky more, Discord. Okay, so again, similar sort of messaging situation. Discord can be really distracting. Understandable. Give me some more examples of distractions. What do you all get distracted by? Alice says her phone. Definitely agree with that. Same over here. My phone can be quite distracting. Catherine says phone as well. Okay. So I think we've got a bit of a resounding theme here where phones can be quite distracting. Okay, well that's something that we're going to address in today's session. And so hopefully by the end of the session, you'll get much better at creating an environment in which you feel more productive. Claudia, you said your phone, so definitely, that's a resounding sentiment there. Pets and people around me. Okay, understandable. Again, understandable. Pets can be noisy. I have a dog. He's a half German Spitz, half Pomeranian called Sushi. Very cute, but also very, very noisy if there are cats outside and he likes to bark at them. So, it can be a bit distracting. So totally understandable. Right. Now, distractions. What are they and how can we avoid them? Now, again, I want to get your ideas. So, how do you think you can avoid some of these distractions? Now, one of the things that has been mentioned multiple times in this stream already are people's phones, which makes sense. Okay, phones can be really, really distracting. Even when I'm at work, occasionally I might check my phone to see whether someone's messaged or if I'm looking up for a specific email. But the problem with distractions is inevitably your mind is then taken away from the task at hand. Now, for those of you who joined in on our first stream about SMART goals, one of the things that we said was that our goals need to be attainable and they need to be measurable as well. Well, I'm going to sort of explain how distractions take away from our ability for our goals to be measurable and attainable. When your distractions are not, when your distractions are about, okay, like I mentioned before, your mind is taken away from whatever task you might have set out to do. Let's say you're trying to revise some biology, okay? Or let's say you're trying to revise or plan an essay answer for English literature. If you keep taking your attention away from planning that essay, what you find is you end up going back and forth, and time goes faster and faster before you even realise that you run out of time. What a lot of studies have actually shown is that we spend time on actually focusing on the task at hand before we even start the task, okay? When you then detract from whatever you're doing, you then spend time looking at that distraction, paying attention to that distraction, and then you have to spend time again trying to refocus on what it was that you were looking at in the first place. So inevitably what you find is even though you might have sat down for about an hour or so to study, if you keep getting distracted, a lot of that time is spent on your mind trying to refocus. And actually what you then find is you've not gotten as much done as you would have wanted to, which then means that your goals seem less attainable. And in terms of measurement, you then don't feel as though you've achieved very much. And that can actually be quite demotivating. Okay, and I think keeping motivation up is one of the most important things for all of you as students. Yeah? So, I'm going to ask all of you a question, and I would love for all of you to get involved and answer as many questions as possible. Why is it important to create a productive environment? Because I've talked a little bit about how we're going to create a productive environment, but I don't want to just sort of talk at you, and I don't want to tell you what to do. I want you guys to culture an understanding and an appreciation of why we do what we do, and why it's important to create a productive environment. So what do you all think? Flaky Moore, you said to be able to focus. I would definitely agree with that. Creating a productive environment allows you to focus at the task at hand, and it also means you're more able to achieve the goals you set out to do. Now, I'm sure for all of you, there is no better feeling than achieving what you set out to achieve. Therefore, it's important that the environment around you, rather, helps you facilitate that. If you're in an environment that works against you, it can prove more challenging to reach that goal. And in a repetitive manner, you then find that you don't even think your goal is attainable anymore, which, like I said before, can be quite demotivating. Flaky, again, you sort of said to be for your goal to be achieved and deadlines to be met. Super, super important. So all of you have deadlines, and I'm sure not a single person here likes deadlines, but deadlines are important because it means that we're able to hold ourselves accountable. And if you keep putting yourself in an environment where you can't focus, you'll find it more and more challenging to study and to get the work done. Time then elapses and you get closer and closer to your deadline, and then you get more stressed. And I think enough things are stressful enough as they are, let alone just trying to get the work done. So help yourselves and create that productive environment. Alice, I definitely agree with you. You've said to be able to be more productive and get more things done. So again, definitely agree with that. Creating environments which are inherently productive allow you to get more done. In some instances, what we find is by creating a productive environment, not only are we able to set out not only are we able to achieve what we already set out to do, we're also able to achieve more than what we set out to do. Now, all of you listeners at the moment, I'm sure, are more than capable of achieving whatever it is that you've set out to do. So just as a bit of a quick show of hands, what are some sort of goals that you've all set out for yourselves this week so far? I'll share one. I have set out a goal to go to the gym at least 3 times this week. I've been on Monday, I've been on Wednesday, so just yesterday, and I'm aiming to go again on Friday. So next week I will let you know how well that went. But do share some of your goals. What are some of the things that you have all set out to do? It could be achieving a certain mark in a mock exam that might be coming up. It could be non-education related. Do share some of the goals that you have. So Flaky Moore, you said to update your CV. I think that's a brilliant goal. Is that for UCAS? Is it past UCAS? Is it for work experience even? Definitely be interesting to know. But no, I think that's a really good goal. And definitely an achievable one, which is quite important. So what other goals do people have? What other goals do people want to share? So Ronald, you said to pass your GCSE. Okay, I think that's a brilliant goal, and I'm sure that is more than attainable, more than achievable. Again, I think that's a brilliant goal. And I'm sure you're working really, really hard to meet that goal. And I'm sure that hopefully with this live stream series and some of the other live stream series that my tutor has at the moment, they will help you in achieving that goal. Lapitus, I hope that I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for joining the live stream. Hi. Your goal is to refrain from procrastinating. I think that is a goal we can all share and we can all relate to. I hope that's a goal that's been achieved bit by bit. I think what's important as well is that we're kind to ourselves. It's okay if we don't always achieve that goal, but I think that's a really good goal to have and one that you can use over a long period of time. So thank you for sharing that one. So I think, on the whole, we're all in agreement that creating these productive environments allow us to achieve our goals. Now, Lapitus, I'm going to use yours as an example, but I could also use Flaky Moore's as an example. And Ronald, I could use yours as an example as well. All of these goals that all 3 of you have shared, they all require productive environments. Lapitus, let's take yours for instance. If you don't want to procrastinate, then what's important is that you put yourself in an environment in which you are less likely to procrastinate. So you remove distractions, for instance. You remove devices which you might be drawn to, like a phone or a console. Flaky more, similar situation for you. It could be the case that you need to move away from noise or other people who may distract you while you're trying to update your CV. And Ronald, to pass your GCSE, again, I think the idea of creating a productive environment is even more so emphasized. And I think the important thing to remember for all of you is that a productive environment does not necessarily need to be focused to one specific geographic location. Now, I'm sure all of you have a preferred place where you might like to study. It might be a room, it might be the dining room, it could be a study if you've got one, maybe the library, either school or outside of school. But what's important to remember is that you can create a productive environment anywhere, or nearly anywhere. It's not necessarily about where you are physically, it's more so what you change around you physically to allow yourself to be more productive. And we're going to talk about a lot of those tips really, really shortly. I can see we've got a few more people joining the live stream. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Don't be afraid to say hi. Don't be afraid to get involved either. I hope everything I've said has made sense. If it does make sense, then just put a thumbs up in the chat. If it doesn't make sense, put a thumbs down. But hopefully it does make sense. And if you do have any questions, then by all means, ask away. I'm more than happy to answer your questions as we go along. Akila, hi. Thank you for joining again. It's nice to see you again. I remember you joined us on one of our earlier live streams, either a couple of weeks ago. So good to see you again. I see lots of thumbs up as well. I see a thumbs up from Alice, a thumbs up from Samuel, a thumbs up from Ronald, a thumbs up from Lapidus as well. So brilliant. I'm glad we're all on the same page. Glad we're all on the same wavelength. I also see a thumbs up from Claudia Dreams. Brilliant. Okay, so we're all on the same page. Let's move on then. Now, what does the science say? Now, there are loads and loads of different statistics out there, and I actually got this from an article on UCAS. Interestingly enough, a lot of studies have shown that mess and clutter have a negative effect on learning ability. Now, as a quick show of hands, how many of you are in an area which you would consider messy now? And if that's the case, where is that? Is it in your room? Is it in the living room? Is it the dining room? Just out of curiosity. So I see a quick show of hands. Would you consider the space that you're in right now a messy or a cluttered area? And the thing that I need to stress as well is that what people deem to be messy or cluttered is relative. Okay? Everyone will have their own sort of standard or point at which they would say, yeah, this is messy, yeah, this is quite cluttered. So Akila, you've said it's kind of messy, kind of cluttered in the living room. Okay, understandable. Lapidus, you put your thumbs up, or your hand up, and you said, yep, it is definitely cluttered. Ronald, you said that your bedroom is messy at the moment. Okay, so understandable. I think mine is also semi-messy at the moment. It's one of my things on my to-do list to fix. Flaky Moore, you said the study room is quite messy at the moment. Lapidus, again, you said that your room is messy as well. And Claudia, you said that your desk in particular is messy. Okay. Now, I'm then going to ask a follow-up question to all of you. Thank you for answering. How many of you, on a scale of 1 to 10, being 10 being I could definitely study here, and 1 being I can't at all study here, based on the environment you're in right now, would you be able to study? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd be really interested to see what your ratings are. And there's no shame, complete honest space. Interesting. Okay. So Lapidus, you said 8, that you would kind of be able to study. Akila, you said 6 or 7, so okay, so slightly unsure. Flaky, you said 6. Catherine said 7. Claudia, you said 8. Okay, interesting. Now, one of the things, again, that I would like to point out is the idea that, for some, mess and clutter aren't a distractive point. Okay, what a distraction is to you is it's subjective. Okay, I'm now going to ask the same question again, but I'm now going to introduce the idea of noise. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, being 1 that you cannot study and 10 being that you can study, would you be able to study if there was loads and loads of loud noise in the room? People having conversations, television's on, someone's watching, I don't know, like Game of Thrones on Netflix or something. I just want to see what your contributions are. Okay, so Lapsus, you said 1, so complete opposite. Okay, Akila, you've said 5. Flaky Moore, you've said 10, so you will still be able to study with a lot of noise. I envy you. Claudio, you've said 0. Okay. Alice, you said 7, 8. Interesting. So I think what the live chat is clearly showing, and Ronald, you also said 1, what this is really reinforcing is the fact that everyone has their own distractions. Or on a scale, on a ranking, everyone has their own sort of annoyances that take away from their abilities to study more so than someone else. So for me, it's mess. Okay, I cannot study if it's really, really messy. Okay, because then I just focus on the mess and I want to get everything fixed. I want to get rid of all the clutter. Now, I can manage noise a bit more because most of the time I like to listen to music. Okay, I generally like to listen to music that's instrumental based. Not embarrassingly. I quite like video game music because it's all in the background. It's all sort of soundtrack based. So to raise my hand, in all honesty, a lot of Sonic soundtrack music is stuff that I like to listen to when I study. Out of curiosity, do any of you like to listen to music when you study? And if so, what do you like to listen to? Or can you not listen to music when you study? That would also be interesting to see. I can see that someone else has joined us this evening. Hi, thank you for joining the live stream. Do feel free to get involved. We absolutely love contribution. So can any of you listen to music when you're studying? Let's see. So Samuel, you said that you like lo-fi chill music. I also quite like it, which is exactly what I'm playing now at the moment. Catherine, you've said classical music. A lot of studies have shown that classical music actually boosts your productivity, so good on you. Lapitus, you've said that, okay, brown music has been useful. I'll have to look up what that is a bit later, definitely. Akila, you said calming nature, or maybe like nature sounds. They're quite nice, so definitely agree with that. That's quite cool. Claudia, you like listening to relaxing instrumental music. And Alice, you said quiet music in the background with no particular type. I'm glad we're all in agreement. I can't study in silence. I think it's really weird. So I like background music a lot of the time. So brilliant. A lot of science has also shown that naturally lit environments typically achieve grades that are 25% higher than students who study in sort of not very lit areas. Now, that could very well be just because in a more lit room, you can see what you're reading a bit better. But it's also because light has also been linked to positivity, which we talked about last week. And it's also been linked to better retention in terms of memory. Would you agree with that? Would you disagree with that? Do you all like to study in lit areas? I mean, I'm not suggesting that any of you try and study in the Bat Cave, because I don't think anyone will be able to study there. But what do you guys think? Do you like working in lit areas? What are some other aspects of a productive space that you find useful? So Alice, you said that you agree, and so has Flaky Moore. I love that you both agree. Akila, you've said yes. Brilliant. I'm glad that you also agree. The science definitely shows that lit areas also help. So already, you've now got a few tips which you can incorporate in terms of creating this productive environment. If you know you work well with music, listen to music. Listen to whatever helps you focus, whether it's your instrumental music, whether it's lo-fi, classical, or any other genre that works for you, utilize it, okay? If you find that lit areas help you, which the science shows that they do, turn on a light, okay? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the main ceiling light, but even if you've got a little lamp that helps you see a bit better, again, utilize it. A lot of science has also shown that colour also helps. So sometimes using highlighters, using colouring pencils, felt tips, all of these things can help in terms of retention and in terms of better success rates when it comes to exams. So already we've introduced a few key points which all of you can take away and utilize if you don't do that already. And if you do all of those things already, keep doing them, okay? Don't try and fix what isn't broken, okay? Does anyone else have any other tips at all that they might want to share? What other things do they do that might help them be more productive as they study? I'll have one. I like to have a nice cup of tea or a nice hot drink while I study anything. Now, what drink I have will depend on what time of day it is. If it's really late at night, I'll try and avoid caffeine because then that will affect my sleep. And then, as all of you will know, if you don't sleep as well, you won't be able to focus as well, and you won't be able to study as well. So I might have a decaf tea in the evening, or one of those sleepy teas. But what do all of you do to try and focus? So Alice, you said you like to write key things to remember around your working area. I think that's brilliant. Like post-it notes, I think maybe. Post-it notes are quite cool. I think that's brilliant. Akila, you said having a snack. Definitely agree with that. Nothing wrong with a Kit Kat or anything else that you might find useful to help you study. But no, brilliant. Okay, that's brilliant. Again, really loving the engagement. Really appreciate it. So thank all of you. Now, just as a bit of a quick recap on SMART goals. And again, I know this is another time I've sort of come back to the idea of SMART goals. And we visited that idea in our first live stream. If you did miss that, you can go onto the My Tutor YouTube channel. And you can watch that first session all about SMART goals. Okay. Now, as we mentioned before, SMART goals are a framework which we can use to make our goals more specific, measurable, attainable, relevant to you, and time-bound. And what's really important is that the environment that you put yourself in and the environment that you create has to support that. Okay, so your environment is almost a foundation. It doesn't matter whether your goal is SMART or not, because if you're in an environment which takes away from your productivity, you'll struggle to meet those SMART goals that you have done brilliantly at setting out to do. Let's take, for example, a situation where you want to revise. Let's see. Someone give me an example of a subject and a topic. So I'm going to type. Oh, actually, no, I can't type in the chat. Let's say I said biology. Give me a topic in biology. Okay, no, Flaky Moore said chemistry. Okay, so let's go with chemistry. So Flaky Moore was first. You said chemistry. Or Laptus, you said biology or cell biology. So okay, we've got a few examples. We'll use all of them. Let's say you wanted to, for half the day, look at a bit of chemistry, and you wanted to look at organic chemistry in particular. Let's say you wanted to look at some mechanisms all about electrophilic addition with alkenes. And let's say for cell biology, you wanted to look at protein synthesis in the cell. And you wanted to look at how that process works, starting from the nucleus all the way to the ribosome where translation happens. If you are in an environment where you've got loads of noise around you, or it's messy, let's say your pet is making loads of noise, you can hear people running around and making loads of noise outside, what you find is that your mind is unable to focus on what you set out to do. So for chemistry, you might find that when you're drawing out your mechanisms for electrophilic addition, you're drawing your arrows in the wrong direction, or to the wrong part of a molecule. And for biology, you might find while you're trying to learn protein synthesis, you get transcription and translation mixed up. Or maybe you mix up some of the enzymes that are involved in those processes. And that's understandable. And I think what's really important as students to also remember is that if you're in an environment which inherently doesn't allow you to focus, you cannot then blame yourself for not being able to focus. And you shouldn't be hard on yourself. Rather, what we want to do is we want to try and implement things which allow us to focus more. Does that make sense for everyone? I hope it does. Give me a quick thumbs up in the chat if that's all made sense. Hopefully it does. Again, what's really, really important is that if there is an issue with our abilities to study effectively, we just address that issue. We don't take it out on ourselves because that's not helpful, it's not productive. And I know when you've got exams coming up, and I know when you've got deadlines, it can be really, really easy to just ask yourself, why have I not achieved it? And think it's a you issue. But no, it's not necessarily a you issue, okay? Sometimes it's a case of looking at the environment around you and seeing whether or not it supports you. And if it doesn't, it's just a case of changing that. So Alice, you got a thumbs up there. Flaky more. I'm glad that will make sense as well. Claudia, Keela, I'm glad it makes sense to all of you so far. And once again, I do want to say thank you for joining the stream this evening. Right, so here are a few tips which I've put together. Okay, so firstly, try and dedicate a specific space. Okay, now a lot of the time, our brain likes consistency. Okay, we like patterns. Okay, and a lot of the time, what we'll try and do is we'll try and associate certain things with certain thoughts and feelings. So, if there is a designated space that you have in the house, use it. Or if there's a designated space that you have outside of the house to study, use it, utilize that. Make that your specific space to study. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of science suggests that students that have designated areas to study are more likely to focus. Now, generally, I'm quite old-fashioned in the sense that I think having a desk is quite useful. I know in my case, having a desk makes me more likely to focus than if I'm sat on my bed writing notes, for instance. But for some of you, that might be useful. What's important is that you have a designated area that you have just for studying. It also means that when you then move away from that area, you then know that you're done with studying. And then you can then take a break, and that allows your mind to recharge. Nusrat, thank you for joining. You have a question. How can you plan your routine? I think that's a really, really good question. I think that's a question which I am going to copy for now. And at the very end of the session, I'm going to go through any questions that any of you have, and I will answer them all. So hopefully you can wait till the end of the session, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. But yes, dedicating specific spaces is really, really useful for productivity as a student. Removing distractions. This is something that we've definitely talked about a lot. And I suppose it goes without saying. Distractions in and of themselves take away from our ability to focus. And if you can't focus, you can't get your work done. Now, all of you have been really, really brilliant so far in sharing a few examples of distractions. We've had pets, we've had TVs, we've had phones. For those of you who have said phones, I'm going to suggest one of two things. And this is where I think all of you are more than mature enough to make a judgment call as to what you can do and what you can't do. Firstly, so this is my phone at the moment, cute little Pokemon phone case. I know for a fact that if I'm studying, I need to have my phone on silent. Because if my phone pings, I'll automatically want to say or see what's going on my phone. So just putting your phone on silent can make a difference, because then that eliminates the noise aspect that comes with a phone. But if you know that you'll still look at your phone, even if it's on silent, then put your phone away or turn your phone off. I think a lot of the time we like having our phones because just tapping on a screen means that it's on and you can see what's going on. But statistically, you're less likely to go for your phone if you have to hold down a button to turn it on and then unlock it, because, again, that takes time away from the possible entertainment you get from using your phone. So, as a quick show of hands, what do all of you think you'll do with your phones? Are you going to put them on silent, or are you just going to turn them off? There is no wrong answer here either, because it's dependent on you, and it's dependent on what you think you're capable of doing. So, no wrong answer at all. I remember when I was younger, one of my first ever distractions was my Game Boy Advance. My dad got me one for Christmas, and I was obsessed with it, to the point where he would take it off me during the week, and I just wouldn't have access to it until the weekend. But then over time, what I found was that I didn't necessarily even care about it that much. So ultimately, it's entirely up to you what you do, okay? I think the important thing is that you're honest with yourself about it. Flaky Moore, you've said turn it off. Definitely back that one. Samuel, you've said leave them in another room. I think that's a really good suggestion, actually. And it's a suggestion that Alice has also said, and Akila's also said. Samuel said that when you were in year 11, sometimes you left your phone in your locker overnight because you were dedicated. No, but I think that's really good. I think that's really good, because if you don't have your phone on you, it forces you to study. And I think, even in saying that, what I don't want any of you to cultivate is this idea that studying is boring, or that you don't necessarily want to do it. Over time, when you find that you get benefit out of studying and you start to enjoy it, what you actually find is that even if you do have your phone around you, you have no interest in it. Okay? So I think that's brilliant. And for those of you who might be a bit more hardcore with your phone, consider leaving it in your locker, if that's appropriate anyway. Laptis, you said turn off notifications, and Catherine, you said leave your phone in the next room. These are all brilliant suggestions, and I would love to see next week, hopefully if you all join, whether or not you have used any of those sort of those ideas, whether you've implemented any of them, and what the results have been like. So I look forward to hearing that all from you next week. Right, scheduling a certain study time. I think this can probably be one of the more challenging things, because a lot of the time you have other things going on. So as a quick show of hands, who has extracurricular activities? And what are they, out of curiosity? Are they a sport? Are they a non-sport? Are they an art? When I was at school, I did Model United Nations after school a lot of the time. I also did a bit of rugby here and there when I was much younger, and also a bit of musical theatre. So there are lots of activities that I had after school. So just as a quick show of hands, do you have any extracurricular activities? And if you do, what are they? Be really interesting to see. And the reason that I ask that is because inevitably an extracurricular activity takes away from possible time that you've got. What's important though is that you find a balance between work and other things. So Alice, you said that you've got clubs that go on after school. Again, absolutely brilliant, because clubs are important. Flaky Moore, you said tennis. Brilliant. I lack the hand-eye coordination for tennis. So I think that's really, really cool. I admire people who play tennis. I think it's a really, really cool sport. Akila, you said cricket. Again, very similar situation. I could only bat. I could never bowl, because I'd always, when you're going over arm, my arm would always go in the wrong direction, go at a different angle. Lapis, you said a hobby is reading. Okay, again, more than fine, brilliant. Again, I think all of these are really, really positive things to cultivate after school. Now, I think one of the challenging things as a student is we then think to ourselves, well, I've not got enough time because I've got clubs, I've got tennis, I've got sport, or I'd rather read. And inevitably, you then think that you can't study as well. And actually, I think this sort of touches on what Nusrat's question was earlier about how you plan a routine. What's important about planning a routine is that it's modeled after your schedule and it gives you leeway time. Okay? A schedule should never feel rigid to the point where if you don't or you're not able to adhere to that schedule, you then blame yourself for it, because that is not the point of a schedule. The point of a schedule is for you to have a rough framework which guides you on how you spend your time and when you perform certain activities. So let's say, for instance, school finishes for you at 4 and you know you have clubs until 6. If you then get home at around 6:30, you might then say, okay, well, I don't really want to go straight into studying. I might want to have a bit of a break for an hour, and that's okay. Okay? Sometimes a schedule doesn't have to be from this time to this time I'll do this. It can be in the evening I'll spend X amount of time studying, and then that gives you a bit of flexibility. What do you all think about that idea? Is that an idea that you already utilize? Is it an idea that you might start utilizing if you don't use it already? Because I personally never worked well with rigid schedules, because there would always be things, and there will always be things that are out of your control. Let's say, for instance, you missed the bus, or let's say there's traffic on the roads, or let's say a club overruns. You don't know or you can't predict any of that. But what you can do is create a framework for yourself that allows you to find a good balance between studying and between pursuing extracurricular activities, which are also important. But above all, schedules which allow you to take a bit of a break. That's also important as well. So, as a quick show of hands, how many of you are going to start creating schedules that are a bit more flexible? Or how many of you are just going to start using schedules full stop if you didn't use them before? It'd be really interesting to see what all of you think about creating a routine or creating a schedule. Really interesting to see what some of the ideas you have are. So, Akela, you said that you've been revising or studying in the same hours every day, which automatically makes your brain stick to it. I think that's brilliant because, again, you then get used to those times. Flaky, more used to the flexible schedule. That's brilliant. And Lapitus, you also would say that you're going to start using a routine. I think that's great as well. And Alice, you said that you're going to plan how you'll study each day or week. I think that's brilliant. So really proud of you guys for thinking of some ideas as to how you're going to plan things a bit better. Also, again, as a quick reminder, because we're getting close to 6 o'clock, do make sure that you fill out the survey on how you enjoyed the session today. Do let me know whether you found it useful or not, and let my tutor know whether you found it useful or not. There is a chance for you to win a £20 voucher by giving your opinion, so do click on the link that Samuel has put in the live chat. Also, make sure to check out the other Study Squad sessions that go on a Monday and a Tuesday. And also make sure to check out the previous Study Squad videos that I've done. They're also on the My Tutor YouTube channel. Ultimately, it's all about creating an environment that works for you, okay? And it's all about not working in the bat cave, as you can see, okay? But I think in terms of content, that is everything from me on this topic. So I hope all of you found that useful. Do type in the chat whether you did, and do make sure you fill out that survey. There's been loads and loads of engagement, and it's been really lovely seeing and hearing from all of you this evening, so thank you for joining. I am going to hang around for a little bit, just to answer any questions and just have a bit of a quick chat towards the end of the session. So by all means, if you can stick around and you do have any questions that you want me to answer, then ask away. And if you can't stay, well, I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you all next week at the same time for another Study Squad session. Laptus, you've said that when you said brown music, you meant brown noise for studying. Right, okay. I guess that will then make more sense when I then go and look it up on YouTube later on this evening. Um, that makes a bit more sense. Thank you for the clarification. Alice, you said you found it really helpful. I'm glad you found it helpful. It's what I'm here for. So I'm glad you found that really, really useful. Let me see. I don't know whether Nusrat, you're still around. I kind of answered your question earlier. I know I said I'd answer it towards the end, but I think just by the nature of the direction of the PowerPoint, I ended up answering your question. So I hope I hope I answered it there. Catherine, you've said that you found it useful as well. I'm glad you found it useful, and I'm glad that you'll all take away some really, really useful tips and tricks that you'll be able to utilize next time. Nusrat, you said that what you struggle with is you either have way too many breaks or too much revision and no breaks in between, and you struggle to even it. Okay, now interestingly enough, I actually have a session that will happen planned. I need to see when though. I do need to check when. All about trying to find balance. Now, to answer your question though, what I would say is, again, having a bit of a schedule works. Now, I think you mentioned football earlier, so I'm assuming you meant by that you play a bit of football after school. So how about you just have a schedule that's a bit more flexible? You have a goal, you set a goal, for instance, and say, okay, well, today I'm going to study for X amount of time. You then study for that period of time, and then you take a break. And then after that, you can then reassess as to whether or not you feel you need to study more. How does that sound? Because it is all about balance, okay? I think the important thing is to try and reflect on why it is you take loads of breaks, or why it is you study loads. It could very well be that you study loads because you feel like you're taking too many breaks, and then because you study loads, you then take loads of breaks because you're then tired, if that makes sense. I hope that hit the nail on the head. If that is the case, again, it is just finding balance over time, okay? Try and break up your studying over a longer period of time than trying to cram it all in one go, okay? Your exams are a marathon. GCSEs, A-levels, they're a marathon, okay? So don't try and sprint it all out at the end. Not just for success rates, but also for your own mental health, which is even more important as a student. Nuzrat, you said that you're trying to work on a schedule. Okay, so what I would say is create a schedule that's flexible is the important thing. Akila, you've said that you've got mock starting in 2 weeks. How could you use your time usefully to revise efficiently? And this actually ties into Nuzrat's question below, and how do I revise efficiently for tests that are all in 1 week? So, I think it's really a case of, well, firstly, looking at what mocks you've got coming up, okay? And looking at what subjects you struggle with the most. I quite like a traffic light system. So red if you don't think you're that great on the subject, yellow if you're in the middle, and green if you're quite good at it. And then you can prioritize how you study based on those subjects. For instance, if you're really, really good at history, then I wouldn't spend as much time on history as I would do with a subject you might struggle with, like, let's say, geography or chemistry or maths, yeah? So it's all about sitting yourself down and looking at what it is you need to achieve and whether or not it's realistic you can achieve it by a certain time frame. Once you've prioritized all of that work, you can then look into breaking down what you need to do. Is it the entire subject you need to go over? Most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's specific areas in those subjects. And then you can prioritize those. So, for chemistry, for instance, is it inorganic you find more challenging, or is it organic that you find more challenging? And then you can sort of prioritize and then study accordingly. I thoroughly recommend making notes as you go along. Past paper questions are also really useful, and mark them yourselves. You then culture a much better appreciation of how exams are actually marked, and you also know where to get the marks from. I hope that answered both of your questions. If it didn't, I'm more than happy to sort of answer them or talk a little bit more. Claudia, you said, how can I make studying more enjoyable? Because you put homework off until the last minute. So, again, I think it depends on you, and I think it depends on the subject as a whole. Inevitably, I think there are some subjects which students like more than others, which is understandable, because not everyone likes everything. I, for one, wasn't a huge fan of physics, believe it or not. I much preferred biology and chemistry. So what you could do, again, is try and cultivate and create environments that help you study, that almost bring down the sense of resistance that you may have when it comes to studying. So, just out of curiosity, is it a specific subject that you try and put off, or is it all your subjects? Do let me know in the chat. Flaky, you've asked, can you suggest ways to help with coping with stress during exam periods? Now that's something I'm going to talk about later on in the series. But to answer this question now, it's about trying to find outlets that help you. Things which give your mind a break. And there are a variety of things you can do. So a bit of cardio is also good. So if you like running, if you like cycling, generally exercise during revision periods is quite important for your mental health. Sometimes going out and seeing friends is also quite good. It's important to socialise in that time as well. Having an outlet. So for me, I quite like playing video games, quite old school ones, like Super Smash Bros. And stuff like that. That was a good outlet for me as well. I think what's really important is during exam periods, you pace yourself. Give yourself time to study and give yourself time to rest. You've said that you go out for fresh air to clear your head. That is brilliant. I think that's really, really good. Fresh air is really important. You can't just be at your desk all the time. What I would advise, it's about finding a balance between studying and not studying. And also not thinking that by not studying, you're not being efficient, because your body and your mind need that rest in order to put that same level of efficiency back into revision. I hope that answers your question. I hope you found that useful. Akila, you asked, what did I do for GCSE and A-level? And what did I get? And what am I doing now? So, let's see. Oh, God. GCSE feels like ages ago. So for GCSE, my options were history, geography, economics and French. At GCSE, I got 3 A stars, 6 A's and a B. At A-level, I then did biology, chemistry, physics and French. I dropped French at AS, so I got a B in that. And then for biology, I finished with an A star. Chemistry was an A star. Physics, I originally got a B, but then I retook for UMS and got bumped up to an A. And now I'm a full-time pharmacist. So I'm a pharmacist full-time, but I also tutor biology and chemistry, GCSE and A-level on my tutor, because I'm quite passionate about education. I work in a hospital, so I'm a hospital pharmacist, and I also do a good bit of teaching for junior doctors if there's ever the opportunity to. So I do a little bit, but I'm quite passionate about education. Nuzrat has asked, how can you memorize information that you're studying for? So everyone has their own way of memorizing. And I think with regards to memorization, there are a few tips that you can utilize. Highlighters are quite useful, so adding color to your notes can be quite useful. I know some people sort of record audio back to themselves and then they listen to it, because sometimes listening to someone explain something is useful. What I would say is memorization is something that ideally you'd want to do over a long period of time. Okay? For any of you who have ever gone hiking, it's like walking down a path which no one's walked down before. It's not established and you can't really see anything. But the more times you walk down that path, you tend to find that it becomes more and more established. And your brain is similar. The more times you revisit something, the more likely you are to retain that information. So set realistic expectations. Don't think that by reading something once, you then understand it to an exam standard, because that's not a fair expectation on yourselves. So go over things repetitively, utilize color. Okay, write notes down. I always found writing notes out by hand, I always found that I retain information that way as well. So I hope that's useful. But it's about finding a strategy that works for you. But I hope those tips were useful. Akila and Laptis, I guess your question is one and the same. Akila, you asked whether maths is needed for medicine, and Lapis, you've asked whether biology and chemistry is required to go into medicine. So, as a pharmacist, and I have a lot of colleagues that are doctors, a lot of friends who are doctors that did medicine, I can say that this question is dependent on the university, but generally, healthcare degrees require chemistry as a given, and then they also like seeing one of either maths, physics, or biology. For some universities, maths or physics may be required. Biology isn't always required, though, although I think it does help from an anatomy perspective when you learn about anatomy at an undergraduate level. Also remember, though, that there are other ways into medicine. So if your A-levels weren't the traditional maths, chemistry, biology, there are foundation year degrees where in the first year of your undergraduate course, you will, you'll learn all the stuff you would have learned at A-level to bring you up to speed in the medical degree. So there are many, many ways into medicine. There are many ways into pharmacy, dentistry, nursing, whichever field you want to go into, even if you don't set out with traditional A-levels. What I would say is look at each individual medical school that you might be interested in applying to. Look at what their requirements are, and from that you'll be able to sort of guesstimate on average what it is that they're looking for in terms of entry requirements. I hope you found that useful. Flaky Moore, you have asked, can you do core maths and further maths for A-level? You can. I don't see why not. I knew many people who did maths and further maths at A-level. I think they count as two A-levels. You'd have maths and then further maths. So, yeah, I don't see why not. You can do that for A-level as well. I hope I was able to answer all your questions this evening. Also, as a bit of a disclaimer, it was around this time that last week the live stream did just drop. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time because it was quite abrupt, which wasn't ideal. But yeah, just as a bit of a disclaimer, just in case it happens. Let's see. How is everyone this evening? Did everyone enjoy the live stream? Did everyone find it useful? Akila, you said thank you for your help and time. You're more than welcome. I hopefully will see you next week for our next study squad session all about study skills. Flaky Moore, you said thank you very much for your time and questions answered. You're more than welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before you leave, do make sure to fill in that survey that Samuel posted the link to in the live chat. There is a chance to win £20 from my tutor, which is always nice. And also do check out my other study squad videos on the My Tutor channel, and check out the other study squad sessions which take place on a Monday and a Tuesday, and they are on maths and coding skills respectively. Really exciting things. Laptus, you've said thank you for your time and support. You are more than welcome. I hopefully will see you next week. And Flaky, thank you so much for answering the survey. Have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone. I will probably end the stream in the next couple of minutes or so. But in case there's anyone else that might have some last minute questions, then by all means, you're more than welcome to ask. I'll be more than happy to answer. You know what? Interestingly enough, when I started the stream, I realised I wasn't wearing my Professor Lab coat this week. I was in such a rush. Definitely for next week, though. Definitely for next week. Yeah, I think we'll end the stream at 1:15 because I realise I've already overrun a bit. But as they say, time flies when you're having fun. So yeah, 1:15 will end the stream. So that's it from me. This has been Professor NK. Thank you for joining the live stream, everyone. I'm just going to switch screens. Hopefully, I will see you all next Thursday at 5 p.m. for another study squad on study skills. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to message me or any of the team at my tutor. But have a lovely evening. Keep being the best student that you can be, and I will see you all soon. But take care.